Good evening and welcome to Class 5's Stories from the Shed. I'd like to say a big welcome tonight to Class 3, who's now joining in with our story, and all of Class 4. So today, Stories from the Shed, Episode 1. And before we start, we're just going to meet some of our characters. Come over to the right here. Now this is Rebel. He's a very, very old T-Rex. I think he's asleep. Rebel. 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 He is a few 100 million years old. I'll see if I can wake him up. Rebel. Rebel. Ah, there we are. Good evening, Rebel. I hope you're well. Over across to the left, we've got Mr. Shoutout. Now, if you want a shout-out, if you want us to mention your name or say hello on our Stories from the Shed, just send us a message via Seesaw and we'll give you a shout-out. But Mr. Shoutout seems to be trying to attract my attention to something tonight. He's pointing upwards. What have we got? Oh, yes. We've got our art gallery. If you've got any art, anything you've drawn, pictures of things you've made at home, send them in and we can show them to everybody. We've got the BFG by Callum. Isn't he fantastic? This one here, this is Willy Wonka. Somebody said, do you like it? Yes, Sarah, we do. We really do like it. We've got Jessica's Matilda there. We've got we've got Mummy Waddywaller and Yassine's Willy Wonka there. And finally, we've got to look at another one by Callum there. So if you've got some artwork, send it in and we'll be sure to show it on our Stories from the Shed. Now, which book are we reading? Everybody's been asking me. Well, we're going to read a very special book. It's about a very special boy and his very special dad and all the adventures that they get up to. It's one of my favourites. Our story by Roald Dahl is Danny, the Champion of the World. Chapter 1. The Filling Station. When I was 4 months old, my mother died suddenly, and my father was left to look after me all by himself. This is how I looked at the time. A baby. I had no brothers and sisters, so all through my boyhood, from the age of 4 months onwards, there were just the two of us, my father and me. We lived in an old gypsy caravan behind a filling station. My father owned the filling station and the caravan and the small field behind, but that was about all he owned in the world. It was a very small filling station on a small country road surrounded by fields and woody hills. While I was still a baby, my father washed me and fed me and changed my nappies and did all the millions of other things a mother normally does for a child. That's not an easy task for a man, especially when he has to earn his living at the same time by repairing motor car engines and serving customers with petrol. But my father didn't seem to mind. I think that all the love he had felt for my mother when she was alive, he now lavished upon me. During my early years, I never had a moment's unhappiness or illness, and here I am on my 5th birthday. Let's look over here. And there's the filling station, there's the car's workshop, and that must be where they live, in the old gypsy caravan. Wouldn't it be fantastic to live in an old gypsy caravan? And here's Danny. And look what he's got in his hand. He must be helping his dad. He's got a spanner, look. I was now a scruffy little boy, as you can see, with grease and oil all over me. But that was because I spent all day in the workshop helping my father with the cars. The filling station itself only had 2 pumps. There was a wooden shed behind the pumps that served as an office. There was nothing in the office except an old table and a cash register to put the money into. It was one of those where you pressed a button and a bell rang, ding, and a drawer shot out with a terrific bang. I used to love that. The square brick building to the right of the office was the workshop. My father built that himself with loving care. And it was the only really solid thing in the place. We're engineers, you and I, he used to say to me. We earn our living by repairing engines, and we can't do good work in a rotten workshop. It was a fine workshop, big enough to take one car comfortably and leave plenty of room around the sides for working. It had a telephone so that customers could arrange to bring in their cars for repair. Our caravan was our house and our home. It was a real old gypsy wagon with big wheels and fine patterns painted all over it in yellow and red and blue. My father said it was at least 150 years old. Many gypsy children, he said, had been born in it and had grown up within its wooden walls. With a horse to pull it, the old caravan must have wandered for thousands of miles along the roads and lanes of England. But now its wanderings were over. And because the wooden spokes in the wheels were beginning to rot, my father had propped it up underneath with bricks. Here's a colour picture of it. There it is, the old caravan. There was only one room in the caravan, and it wasn't much bigger than a first-size modern bathroom. It was a narrow room the shape of the caravan itself, and against the back wall were two bunk beds, one above the other. The top one was my father's, the bottom one was mine. Although we had electric lights in the workshop, we were not allowed to have them in the caravan. The electricity people said it was unsafe to put wires in something as old and rickety as that, so we got our heat and light in much the same way as the gypsies had done years ago. There was a wood-burning stove with a chimney that went up through the roof, and this kept us warm in winter. There was a paraffin burner on which to cook a kettle or cook a stew, and there was a paraffin lamp hanging from the ceiling, a bit like this, children. Can you see the old lamp we have here? That's how they get their light, sorry.